right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Spirit Coffee Talk. I'm Ginette Biro, and with me is Elyse Guthrie and Elyse Richmond. We are some of the mediums channelers at Avalon Spirit, and we wanted to jump on today. It's a little bit earlier than normal, but there have been some really interesting 3D tangible developments that have come up. I do want to share a little story about it after, but this has to do with the energy frequency, the timeline jumping that we've been talking about. And we saw some really significant expression of it through the Schumann Resonance. So we wanted to talk a little bit about the Schumann Resonance right now, but we're also going to be touching back on Friday because we still have the solstice to go through on Wednesday. There's different planetary alignments. This week is very, very active. So we're jumping on now. We'll be back again on Friday too. So welcome, ladies.
Welcome. Bonus episode.
Bonus episode, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Schumann Resonance. Should we just go straight to the picture?
Yeah, let's just do it right away.
Right down to it. All right, so I'm going to share my screen here. And let me hope I can do this properly. Nope.
Maybe.
Really great. Really great.
So last week, remember when we went over just briefly, like, let's describe what the Schumann resonance is for people who don't know. It's the energy.
Just last week.
Yeah, that was. So the
funny.
energy that it is given off the earth, essentially, right?
Yes.
So that first picture is
Right
what
there.
it generally looks like normally. There's like a little bit of blackout, there's some higher. And so what that does is that's a recording of the energy that the earth gives off, essentially, in a simplistic way. It usually hangs out about, what did they say, like 7.82 hertz?
That's like the Earth's resonant frequency, but it can kind of move around that.
Right. Generally, up and down. Okay. And so when the reading comes through, the image on the left there, that's kind of what it looks like on a regular basis every day.
And you'll have these spikes where, like, anytime it goes white or some big downloads or pulses of energy, lots of storms happening, you'll have these every once in a while, but it kind of moves through that. And then sometimes it blacks out, right? Where it doesn't read. But then
this was the 18th of June. This was Sunday, June 18th, 2023. All of a sudden, the readings started coming through in these obscure, amazing, like geometric shapes. Yeah. And it's a reading on a level that nobody's ever seen before.
Yeah. Here we go. So if you look closely, you can see this beautiful sacred geometry, double helix type frequencies. And what was interesting is I heard somebody play this in sound frequency.
Yeah.
And it actually has like a pulsing kind of sound to it, which is so, so interesting. So like the story I wanted to share about this is really interesting. So if you all watched us on, was it last Friday only? On the 9th, June 9th, I think. Yes. So on June 9th, I had a message from Spirit saying this new energy was coming in. And that's when we pulled that epic card pull, the like 10 major arcana card pull about the new timeline. And then 3 days later on June 12th, Spirit told me that it's time. And they showed me this imagery of this massive like lightning bolt striking the ground. And I was like, what's starting? Like something's starting. Then 3 days later on June 15th, they said time's up. And they showed me an hourglass that all the sand had come through. So I was like, okay. And usually when Spirit says like, it's now, it's usually a couple days in between, but I was noticing this pattern of threes. So I said to my guides, if I'm following your pattern correctly, then something is set to come on the 18th, correct? And there was kind of like this, like, but I was kind of like, well, we'll see. Anyways, I wake up, so I go to bed that night on the 17th, which was a new moon in Gemini. I wake up to the loudest thunder I have ever heard in my life. It sounded like the road blew up like a block away. It shook the house. It woke up my husband. So it wasn't even just me in my own mind hearing something. And then followed by this massive flash of lightning. So then I was like, well, it must have had lightning before the thunder came the first time. So after the second lightning, I was waiting for the thunder and nothing. So I was like, what was this? And my guide said, this is the beginning now. And so I was like, okay, the beginning of something. Okay. So I went back to bed. And one thing I did check though was the time, because I was like, what time is it? And it was at 12:10 a.m. So the soonest in the energy of the 18th, where I am, that it could start. So then I wake up the next morning, and then suddenly there's this imagery of what the Schumann resonance is starting to measure in a completely unheard of different way. And so it's this really neat indication of new timeline frequency.
And it's still going. Like if you look at the today's, it's still going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, so what does this all mean? G, like what does that mean to you? Like what does this mean? What is this showing? One thing I want to mention is when we were saying like the frequency that it measures, if you are familiar with like actually measuring frequency, like I always associate it to sound, so I'll play certain sound frequencies or whatever, but when you're measuring, essentially what that is measuring the frequency. Do you remember what they said the hertz were that they measured all day yesterday? Because it's usually anywhere between like
Oh,
7.
7.77 is what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
777.
And so I feel like, but then it like skyrocketed, didn't it?
That was the amplitude, I believe, went up to like 120, which has
It
never
never happened before.
happened before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they're like, there's all of these kind of angel numbers, and then there's these messages that come through it that are the earth is giving off a certain frequency. So when last week when we were talking about last 2 weeks, I guess, the timeline jumping and
Mm-hmm.
us like being like so unsecure, kind of like, where are we? We're jumping timelines. We don't know what frequency we're in, is because as I understand it as Mike, and I'm still getting stuff, like nothing is cement in yet, but how I'm like learning and understanding this energetic frequency is that we are now, like you said, it has started. We are now in this energetic alignment in this higher frequency collectively now, where we are starting to now go forward in this new timeline, in this new
Mm-hmm.
frequency, in this new earth frequency that we have been kind of anticipating. And it literally came in with like a bolt of lightning. It did come in that quickly. And before we recorded this, I went and stood in my yard because the sun came out briefly, but the thunderstorms are everywhere, right? And they were all day yesterday, which was wild. So anyway, I had a brief bit of sun. So I went and stood in the sun. I had my feet in the ground, and I'm like, I want to feel this. And so they're like, put out your hands. So I was putting out my hands, and it felt like this giant bubble was encasing around me, because I do hands, like I do healing for humans. And so I can always feel when there's like hot energy or the like moving around the energy. So I'm used to that. But this felt like that times like a million, when usually it's not even close to what a human would feel like. And it was raising up and raising around me. And as they were showing the energy that was coming up from the earth, what they said is that this is the beginning of a new phase of integrating. Sorry, I close my eyes when I channel sometimes. Integrating the energy up from the earth into our energetic field. And it is literally upgrading us into this new energetic frequency so that we can carry on our existence in this higher frequency. And they showed it to me almost like when a brain is developing, like you go through these big developmental leaps, like when babies' brains, they're sleeping and they sleep all day because they're tired because their brain's growing. And then again, they have that big leap when they're like 14 or 15. And it's kind of like that, but we're getting it internally. So it's actually changing our like DNA makeup. It's actually changing us on a cellular level. It's upgrading our cells into higher frequency. So they're moving at a higher frequency rate and communicating with each other in this higher level frequency. So we're able to do more with energy work, sound vibration, light vibration. We're moving into that ability. So our system is upgrading from this high intensity energy. And so we're gonna feel it. We're gonna feel it like a tired baby or a pregnant mama. We're gonna feel it like whether it goes in and we get our migraines. I've been massively dehydrated, needing to hydrate so that my cells, because they're working so hard. So understand that you might feel it and just be incredibly tired or nauseous or off balance, or you might be like electric. you know, and I tend to go like this, but it's just exciting because when my guides are showing it to me, they're showing it to me like a movie screen, and I'm seeing these beautiful light vibrations integrating into my cellular structures to upgrade, like me, they're showing mine, but to do healing work on previous injuries, heart-centered work, to be able to align your heart center into the love frequency that aligns with this higher earth vibration. The thing is, not everybody is going to kind of step into it. It's going to be a either magnetic force or the opposite. And so you will feel some resistance. So just know that this week, because this is just happening.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we wanted to pop on for a bonus one. But like this week is going to be a bit polarizing that way, because this is a big energetic jump, but there are forces that are not aligned to it and are not energetically upgrading and that are not receiving it. And so it's going to feel that much extra of a that, like when two magnets, what's the scientific name for that, when two magnets hate each other?
I don't even know. They're like repulsed is the only thing
Yeah.
I could say. It's like a
Ugh, I don't
repulsion
like you.
energy.
We are
Yeah.
not a match,
Yeah.
That's essentially what's happening as well. So they're wanting to bring that up, but don't take it on, because then that's going to confuse the energetic as it's upgrading, because it's happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So brought straight to you, you guys. This is like new info. It's all coming through right now.
It is new for sure. Elyse, what are you getting? Or what have you been noticing or feeling or observing?
Um, well, one of the things, all of what you both have said, and realizing too, last week we've had really, it's been a really strange couple months where I live, as far as like the weather and the experiences with the earth and what's going on. Like it's almost like it's flip-flop, like it's really all over the place. And I've just kind of been like, I don't really know what to expect as far as like what this summer will look like and whatnot. But um Thursday last week, at some point, huge storms rolled in and I immediately had a migraine, and it was an intense one. It came on so fast. Normally I can feel them build for a little bit and I'm like, ooh, okay, I got to go do some stuff. This was like 0 to 100 real quick. And these big storms rolled in, and it's really been very stormy since then. And like we have had downpours of rain like I have never seen here. It just, and like the amount of rain coming down, like normally it's like if it's rainy here, you'll kind of have a little sprinkling, whatever, and then it'll move on. And then maybe you'll get a storm where it'll really rain like for, half an hour, and you'll get like this downpour with the thunder and lightning.
Yeah.
And then the sun comes out and it's beautiful again. This has been like these massive cells coming in and just dumping and dumping and dumping. And
the wind.
Yes, the wind has been nuts. It's been cold. Whereas like we were the province that was on fire 2 months ago because it was 400 degrees here. And so, I mean, in that respect, it's like, great, we need this.
It snowed in Jasper.
It did. Yeah.
Yeah,
There
I
was
saw
snow.
that.
Yeah. So it's like everything is really super wonky here in that sense. And noticing these big kind of pushes of energy. And I think what we're starting to see in this experience is that different parts of the world are having these different experiences kind of in relation to what's happening there, which I think is really cool. But kind of as a side to that, one of the things that Lisa, as you were talking, Spirit was saying is to notice, because like you were saying, it's happening so differently for everybody. And we're experiencing it physically in different ways, emotionally in different ways. This last year has been so different for everybody, right? And like, what's your triggers? What's coming up? What do you want? Like, we're all kind of being asked the same things, but it's manifesting in our experience in very different ways. And so what they were saying with this is that to notice the areas in which you're really experiencing this flow and this alignment. Because if you look back over the last couple of months, you'd be like, wow, that was actually like this part of life was going really easily. Like, oh, I was looking for this new job and then I found this new job and it just happened and da 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 da. Or, for me, I've been really focused in on my health in the last while, and these pieces of knowledge and awareness coming that are like blowing my mind hole lately. And I'm like, everybody that I'm talking to, like, did you know this? I found out this, blah, blah, blah. And it's opening these new doors of like, wow, what if I did this differently? What if, you know, it's opening pieces of information or leading me to pieces of information that like I would have never stumbled across, most likely, because I don't know where I would have. So all to say, whether it's like and I'm seeing it in different areas of life where there's pockets that are just so in flow, and to really lean into like, okay, if you look back, these are probably the areas that when we talk about spirits asking, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Those are probably the areas that you're starting to notice some of this flow. Not that everything is like perfect, easeful, everything's, you know, tied up and, you know, you've got everything figured out, but like you can start to see where that like highest good timeline that we've been talking about, your highest trajectory timeline in this new 5D earth, is leading you. Because and not to say every area of life is going to have that yet, but it's the beginning, right? We're just in this new phase, and you're starting to see, okay, here's the first line of focus, here's the second line of focus, and as those things start to fall into place, so will the other ones.
And they're
leaning into that.
Trust because it's this that hold us back when we second guess, and you know, it's like just trust. Because Elyse, as you were saying that, they were showing, and it's so beautiful. Thank you for bringing that up, because we're talking about manifesting and bringing ourselves into it. And they said, it's not about you changing around you, manifesting whatever it is around you to change. It's you getting in your alignment with the frequency that can meet all of your desires. Because this shit's not going to change. It's this. So now all of a sudden we're saying yes, we allow ourselves to move into this frequency. Collectively, we've all done it enough so that Mother Earth is saying, all right, let's go. Because now I can upgrade into a frequency that we can start using to our highest good, that we can all kind of connect with. But getting there took a few hundred years, hey?
It's true. And you know, it's interesting because it feels like it's really following the theme, even that I'm seeing happening so far in the card readings this week. The first few anyway, is this pinpoint focus is what they keep calling it, or this like zeroing in on your focus. But what they're meaning with the zeroing in on your focus is like zero in on your alignment. What feels in alignment? Focus on what is in alignment. If it's not in alignment, let it go. It's not about controlling the details, but focus on the resonant frequency. Which I think then also comes back to how we move through these new things. So if we add in alien disclosure, government and military things happening, the Schumann Resonance, all of these change pieces of new reality offer opportunities to either jump into fear narratives, control narratives, certain religious or spiritual dogma narratives, or you to focus on your personal resonance, focus on that pinpoint thing, so that you then are just manifesting what you need within your reality, because these experiences can be negative, or they can equally be amazingly positive and liberating.
Well, that's it. And it all depends on the frequency that you're residing in, on what you see. Because some people get really angry when I say that. Well, what about this? This is happening for everybody. This event is happening for everybody. And I'm like, I'm literally hearing about it from you right now. Because it isn't in my energetic alignment. It is not in my frequency of knowing. Therefore, I do not reside in it. So you can go hang out there all you want. But like the alien disclosure thing, like you can talk to 10 different people about this, and you'll either get, no one knows what the heck you're talking about, number one, or they saw it somewhere and they think it's just bogus, or they are scared out of their freaking minds and they jump right into a fear narrative. Or like myself, I'm kind of leaning into the, well, no shit. Like this is their way of releasing information. So they're still in control of the information being released, right? When like we've communicated with aliens many times, you know what I mean? We're like, okay, like you take that narrative and make it whatever you want in this like world. But I just feel like the glasses that I'm wearing and the frequency that I'm in and connecting to this like beautiful earth frequency is so different than the fear narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do not pick up on it because I do it's the magnets that hate each other.
Yeah.
And I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And you know what I want to say too is there is when we think of
this on the web.
Thank you.
Oh, Siri chimes
Yeah,
in.
Siri's like, let
So
me
nice
tell
of
you what I
you,
think.
Siri.
So we can continually compare notes, consider something hearsay, truth, false narrative, false flag, whatever you want when it's people versus people. This person said this person wrote this person has this. But there is something so cool when the earth frequencies start speaking and when they're speaking in a way that we can see it on a graph, but it's speaking in geometrical patterns, because then that becomes the language of mathematics. And mathematics can be a universal language. They've been known to communicate to many higher realms, different races, different galaxies in mathematics. So the fact that we have the earth frequency coming through with geometrical patterns, it's pretty obvious there's this new level of tangible communication that goes beyond humans' words.
Yes.
Right? And that is what just brings me this like peaceful, quiet joy where I'm just like, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it resonates.
Yeah.
Because that frequency resonates with your vibration.
Yeah.
Because you get and understand and transmute and emit that like sacred code that is coming through anyway. And so for us to try to use human words to describe it to people, I mean, in different cases, we've done our best, but something like this, like when I was like upgrading, I could feel it and they were showing me what was happening through my whole system. I was like, yes, very similar to when we were on location at Port Renfrew in Hawaii. And connecting to this earth grid, the frequency of the earth grid as it continues to upgrade in its vibration, like we're going to just start seeing or hearing, I guess, more and more of that kind of terminology become more common, I guess, in conversation. People are going to start using it and understanding it more commonly, almost like they always just kind of knew it because that's what's happening. But again, some people won't, and that's fine. But it does, you're right, Ginette, it does come with a certain level of peace because it's something that you can just lean into because you know it.
Yeah.
You know?
So, I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see what we experience through the solstice, because we still have the solstice on Wednesday. And for those of you
What's the weather
that
supposed to be like for you guys on Wednesday? Are you going to get some sun?
I think I get sun.
I don't know.
I'm not sure. I can't find my phone right now either, so I can't check. Yeah, but we have that. We have the solstice. And I am hosting Cosmic Consciousness. So for those of you watching that are wanting to dive in deeper, there's some channeled messaging from the goddess Isis coming through. So I will ask also about the Schumann if there's other stuff. Yeah, so by the time Friday comes around, I'd be so curious what we have learned, what we have seen, what has unfolded, what makes more sense, because like we've been saying, this is all just new and happening.
Yeah,
So
you're seeing it here first, folks.
Yeah.
So with this bonus episode, we wanted to do it so that we could like throw it out there so people can start to like feel into it. You know, without any expectation or just feel into it and see how your body's reacting, see how your body reacts to earth, to ground in whichever way you can. Write everything down too, whatever comes up, write things down and how you're feeling. And then we can check in again on Wednesday and Friday to be like, how's it going? How did this week go?
Any other thoughts on your end, Elyse?
Yeah, actually, one thing, I was doing a little Googling just because I always like to check in with what I'm hearing. And one of the things that was coming up for me was because I was thinking about like, why Sunday? Like, I don't think there was any massive astrological alignments. Maybe there was, I don't know. I mean, there always is, but nothing that I didn't see anybody flagging, anything like that. And I was like, it's interesting that it was Father's Day. And they said, well, it's a very masculine energy right now. And part of, and again, whenever we talk about like masculine, feminine energy, we're not talking about male, female, anything like that. We all have masculine, feminine energy.
Yeah.
The sun, all of that is more of a masculine energy. The earth, the moon is more of a feminine energy. It's that take action versus that flow. They both have their beautiful sides. What a lot of people talk about right now, as far as the challenges that we see from a 3D perspective on this earth, are rooted in a level of toxic masculinity that we can all experience and all have. Again, it's not male, female, it's energies. That can look like greed. It can look like, the kind of ick capitalism. It can look like taking rather than giving and receiving and keeping things in balance. It can look it can look exploitive, like things like that, which is a lot of, when we talk about all the things kind of happening in the world, rooted in that really kind of toxic energy of that. And they're saying there's a reason that this is happening right now, because when we look at the solstice energy, which is beautiful, but it's masculine. Father's Day is a very masculine rooted experience, right? In that energy of masculinity, it's coming up right now for a very real reason, because masculine energy, even in its best, highest, most positive way, is heightened right now. And where so many people are talking about, and I really, we talk about this too, is like there needs to be a restore of balance in all ways. And so this energy coming in is very high energy, feminine. It's coming from the Schumann resonance, but also there's a lot of talk about what the sun's doing. So I think we're gonna, and Lisa, you were talking about this, it's like polarizing kind of push pull. I feel like that is playing into it too. So all to say, noticing if you're really having challenges energetically, you're feeling, unwell or really tired or headachy or whatever, we were talking about this before, can you rest? Can you settle into some of that feminine? Can you take a bath? Can you do things to nourish yourself and nurture yourself to just create a little bit more of a bubble of support while this kind of push pull, it's like an equalization energy is happening, where we're kind of swinging to one end and then swinging to the other end. And there's this intense Schumann resonance, and then there's intense weather, and it's just really kind of back and forth. And so can you find yourself in a little bit of a balanced bubble where you're leaning into your masculine where you need to, your healthy masculine where you're leaning into your healthy feminine where you can, and supporting yourself that way? Because I think that that's the energy piece of this, that we're seeing this balance play out, but we're kind of in the initial phase where it's like we're ping-ponging a little bit to either side of the spectrum, and that can just be really disorienting and uncomfortable.
You know what I think is neat, speaking with what you're saying, 2 points is, first of all, in the new patterns on the Schumann resonance, there's also a double helix-like pattern, which is really symbolic of the divine feminine and masculine, 2 parts merging together in equal parts. So I find that interesting. But also, just this morning, I happened to be talking to an astrologer friend of mine, and she mentioned that astrologically speaking, she had her eyes on June 18th because there are different like really lucky days and maybe some like unlucky days. And her guides had highlighted June 18th being a lucky day of divine masculine expression and receptivity. Yeah, astrologically speaking, that happened to fall on Father's Day. So I think it's really neat, your point. I don't know what makes it that way, so I can't say which planets align and do this. I don't know that, but she mentioned that in passing. So it's these neat.
And this is also all in Gemini, which is the twins.
Yeah, because we did just have the new moon. Like, so
yeah, on the 17th. Yeah.
This started right after the new moon was in its like darkest point. So it was like, as soon as it started, it was like right at the freshest point of rebirth and restarting and regenerating.
Yeah. Amazing. So interesting. So yeah, notice what you notice, everyone, this week. Notice the things, notice how you feel, notice what's happening. And and then we'll connect back again on Friday.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you everyone so much for joining us. Check out Spirit Coffee Talk. If you're not watching it on the Avalon Spirit YouTube page, then that is where you can find it. And we will see you all soon.